Hi, I'm Chef Manuel and welcome to my kitchen. This is What's Cooking with Manuel, and today I'm going to be preparing my delicious pistachio and almond figolli. Figolli are a traditional Maltese sweet pastry which is served over the period of Easter. I'm going to be doing a different recipe from the traditional today with a few of my favorite tweaks. Like I said, instead of just pure almonds, today I'm going to be doing a twist with pistachio and almond. A very easy recipe. Also, I've tweaked the recipe by doing the shape and the design in a slightly more contemporary design. Traditionally, Maltese figolli were in the shapes of rabbits, Easter eggs, little bunnies and lambs. Today we're going to see that I'm going to be decorating them with a different type of twist, but always keeping them in a Maltese theme. So are you ready? If you want to see the recipe online, you can go to our website, aceline.media, write Manuel's pistachio and almond figolli, and there you'll find the recipe in English and also in Maltese. Okay, let's start. So for our figolli, we need to make a sweet pastry and a delicious almond and pistachio filling. Let's start with our pastry. I've got a food processor here, and what I'm going to be doing today is half a recipe. A full kilo of pastry does not fit into my food processor, so I'm going to be doing half a recipe. So everything I'm going to be doing is by half. Let's start with the flour. We're using plain flour, all-purpose flour, and we need 500 grams. Original recipe is a kilo, we're doing 500 grams. 500 grams is going in a food processor. Now, I always like to use a food processor because I find it just makes the best pastry. So that's going in our food processor. We've got a blade, and I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon only of baking powder. So I like to use plain flour, and I'm controlling the raising agent by adding in baking powder. Next, I'm going to add in some orange zest and lemon zest. So for the full recipe, it's the zest of 2 oranges and the zest of 1 lemon. Obviously, we're doing half. That's going in. It's very, very important that we add in the zest right now. So when we blitz together, the flavors are going to amalgamate together. I'm talking in Maltese as well, English only. So here we go. We're going to measure icing sugar. I always use icing sugar for my pastry. It comes out finer. You don't get those lumps of granulated sugar or those sugar spots. Full recipe is 300 grams, so we're adding in 150 grams of icing sugar. Okay, so it's soon time to blitz. A couple more ingredients. In goes the icing sugar. We need to add in pure Maltese butter. Okay, here I've got butter. We need 450 grams. We've got 200 grams here. I'm going to add in 215 grams of pure Maltese butter, always unsalted. So in goes a full packet, and then all we need to add in is a little bit of vanilla extract, and we can start blitzing. So let's put these aside. So 215 grams of Maltese butter. The butter was in the fridge. Don't leave your butter out. It's got to be chilled. It's got to be cool, because otherwise it will start melting in the food processor. So I've been making figolli I'm 52 years old. I think I started making figolli when I was about 4 years old with my mother. My recipe is a take on my mother's recipe. Like I said, today I'm doing a pistachio and almond figolla. Traditionally, figolli were always just made with pure ground almonds. Today, there's a big trend on using pistachios in almost everything. I created this recipe a couple of years ago, and it was a very successful recipe. So, as I said, today we're making pistachio and almond figolli. All I'm going to add in is a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and we're going to start blitzing. So let's put the lid on and let's blitz. Why do I use the food processor? Simply because instead of using my fingers, which are warm, the food processor is going to do everything for us. Use this recipe and it will create a lovely, smooth and soft pastry. Last ingredient, so we added in orange zest and lemon zest. We're going to add in the juice of 1 orange, and we have 2 egg yolks. We're going to be using the egg whites in our filling, okay? So let's tidy up a bit. Let's check our pastry. As you can see, the pastry has already started to bind. So all we're going to do is we're going to push it aside. It's important we use pure Maltese butter for this recipe. We're going to add in the orange juice, the juice of 1 orange, and we're also going to add in 2 egg yolks. So 2 egg yolks go in here and 2 egg whites are going to go in the filling. We're going to give it a bit of a mix. We're going to put the lid on and we're going to blitz, and we can say that this pastry will be ready. What I like to do is chill my pastry for about 15-20 minutes before I use it. You can prepare the pastry in advance. That's perfect. You can prepare the pastry in advance. I suggest if you are going to do that, you put it in the fridge, you wrap it up obviously in cling film or baking paper, put it in the fridge, take it out of the fridge about 15 to 20 minutes before you want to use it. This pastry turns out soft, okay? It's a slightly softer pastry as you can see, but what we do is we put it in the fridge for 15 to 20 minutes. This will start to absorb all that moisture and we'll end up with a delicious pastry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in cling film, put it in the fridge for 15-20 minutes, and let's start the filling. So we've now put our pastry in the fridge. We need to chill it for about 15-20 minutes. It gives you best results. Like I said, when we've created the pastry, it's slightly softer than usual. In the fridge, it will settle up and it will be perfect. A lovely smooth pastry. It's important you use butter and you use icing sugar, okay? Fantastic. I've got some ground almonds in my hand because we're ready now to start our filling. So for our filling, like I said, traditional Maltese figoli are made with just pure ground almonds. I've tweaked the recipe in many ways, and one of the ways I've tweaked the recipe today is by using pistachios as well as ground almonds. I'm not doing 100% ground almonds. I'm doing 50% pure ground almonds and 50% pistachios. Now what I need to do is this. I'm going to blitz the pistachios together with the almonds to start with. I've got pistachios which are whole here, so we're just going to blitz them ground into a flour just before we start. So got a clean bowl. I need to do, once again, half a recipe. We did half a recipe of pastry, so we're going to do half a recipe of filling. So we needed 400 grams of pistachios and 400 grams of pure ground almonds. That's a full recipe, so we're going to do 200 and 200. So let's start weighing. We have about 80 grams in each bag here. 160, we need 200 grams. Great. They're going in our food processor. We need to add in the same quantity of pure ground almonds. So in this case, it's 200 grams. You know, always make sure that you trust your supplier. If you're using pure ground almonds, it's got to be pure ground almonds. No substitutes, nothing added to. We want 100% pure almonds in our recipe, okay? So we're gonna add in 200 grams of pure ground almonds. Whereas in the pastry, we added in orange zest and a little bit of lemon zest. In this, we're just gonna use lemon zest. I've got about 2 lemons zested here. We're gonna add it again to our almonds and pistachios, and we want the flavors to get incorporated. If you don't know, if you don't add lemon zest to almonds, the taste of almond doesn't come out, so this is essential. So we're going to blitz the two together before we add in the rest of the ingredients. So we've got our pistachios, we've got our ground almonds, and we've got our lemon zest, and let's start blitzing. Okay, our almonds and our pistachios are ground together. Now, as a chef, I never, ever use almond extract. I never do, very rarely. And another thing, another trick I found is when we're using pistachios, that little bit of a drop of almond extract, again, brings out the flavor. So it's very important we use lemon zest, but in this case, because I've got pistachios as well, I'm gonna add in a little bit of vanilla extract and also almond extract. So I'm going to add just 1/4 teaspoon here of almond extract, not too much. One thing I can't stand is when you taste something and it's got so much almond extract in it, it tastes fake, and that's not what we want. And we're going to use about 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now we haven't added in any sugar yet, so we're gonna add in our icing sugar. Once again, icing sugar, why? Because icing sugar is finer, and I always want to avoid finding granulated or caster sugar like those grits in between our teeth. We want it nice and silky smooth. So we're gonna add in 300 grams of icing sugar. If I'm not mistaken, we have 300 grams already here. That's correct. 300 grams are going in. Once again, it's half a recipe. Should be 600 grams, we're doing half a recipe. I'm just gonna blitz these together before we add in our egg whites, and then we're done. Let's blitz these together. Actually, let's give it a quick mix. Remind you, you can find my recipe on our website, aceline.media, and this is Manuel's pistachio and almond figolli. Let's give it a blitz. Okay, I'm fine with that. All I'm gonna do is just give it another mix, nice and fine. If you already find pistachio flour, you can use pistachio flour. All I'm gonna do is, I'm making a little bit of space, like a couple of wells in the bowl, because now we're gonna add in egg whites, about 2 egg whites, 2.5 egg whites. We're gonna add in a little bit first and give it a mix so it starts getting all the bits of almonds and pistachios together. And then we're done. Let's see. And that's it. Could it be easier? Anyone who says they don't have the time to make figolli, they don't have the time to make pastry, it's so simple. So we're gonna chill this. This is like a soft marzipan. Chill with the pastry, and we're gonna continue by rolling them out and putting these figolli together. We've got everything ready to start putting our figolli together. So we have our pastry, which was chilling in the fridge. We also have our almond and pistachio filling. I've also got some water with a little bit of a pastry brush, and it's an optional thing. If you want to, you can add in pistachio paste or extra whole pistachios. So all we need to do is, we've got some extra flour here and our cutters. I'm gonna unroll our pastry. Like I said, it's important to chill. So it's important you use pure butter. I use white butter simply because the flavor is just gonna be phenomenal, and the crunch, the shortness of the pastry will be like a really beautiful buttery biscuit. It does make a big difference on texture and also on the crispiness of the figolla. So before we start rolling, okay, I'm gonna put some flour on the table. Traditionally, figolli in Malta, we use these cute little cutters. So this, for example, is a little duck. Here we have a heart. Here we have a butterfly. And traditional Maltese figolli come in these type of Easter-inspired shapes, but then you also find things like Mickey Mouse guitars and lots of different things. What I'm doing today is, apart from something which is more traditional in shape, I've also created my Artisan figolli, like you've seen at the beginning of the program, where I've taken traditional Maltese ideas or things you'd find in Malta, like the Maltese tile, the Maltese door knockers, and I've created figolli using these themes. Now, a couple of years back, I did a whole array of Maltese figolli in an artisan design, and I created things like Maltese doors, domes of churches, the bandalori during the festi, door knockers, Maltese balconies, baitar tashok, prickly pear, so many different things. In fact, you know what, guys, while I'm talking about them, could we bring some photos up to show everyone about the figolli I'm talking about? So we're gonna make something a little bit traditional, and we're also gonna make something with a bit more of that artisan modern design. So here we've got our pastry. I think I'm gonna start with a duck. Let's start with a duck. So I'm gonna break my pastry in half. Now, the most important thing that we shouldn't do is get our pastry and start kneading it, because all we're gonna do is we're gonna get that gluten working, and our pastry is gonna toughen up. We've taken all that care to make a fantastic pastry, so the last thing we want to do is toughen it up. So, bit of flour, lightly, okay? It's so soft, I can just do this Look how soft, smooth and silky. So you must always keep pastry moving. A big mistake so many people do is they just roll, 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 roll and it sticks. A secret to getting your pastry not to stick is to keep it moving. Okay, keep it moving, keep it lightly floured. Keep turning. And we want to roll up the pastry to about 1 centimeter. Now remember, we're going to have 2 layers of pastry and we're going to have a layer of the filling. So I'm going to take my duck. Okay, we've got a duck cutter. And we're going to cut 2 pieces. We need a piece for the top and a piece for the bottom. Now, this pastry is also very delicious. You've got a sense of orange zest, lemon zest, and also your vanilla extract, topped up with the delicious butter flavor. So believe me, figoli are very, very rich, but they're also very, very delicious. And one problem that we all have is we cut a piece and we go back for another, and we go back for another. And before you know it, your figoli is finished. I mean, we wait for them once every year, so that's why we love them so much. So let's do this. Another thing I don't do, I don't get all the ends and the bits and squash them together. You will never, ever, ever see me doing that, okay? I'm gonna show you a trick. And the trick is to just push them together, okay? When we want to re-roll, and I get another piece of pastry, and I flatten it on top. You must always try not to knead the pastry. Okay, we're going to do that soon. So let's do this. I've got a baking tray here. I'm just going to get one of these ducks. I'm going to put it on. And I'm just going to wet with just some water. Lightly wet the pastry all over. Now it's time for the filling. Now the filling. Ideally, the filling is like a soft marzipan. It's slightly sticky, okay? But I can actually open it up. Now, the idea is this. Let's put this up here. What I want to do is I want to roll this out and use the same cutter as I cut the pastry to cut the filling. So what we need to do is put a little bit of flour on the table. And I like to use my hands, and I like to do it individually. I'm going to make the filling slightly thicker than the pastry. Why? Because the pastry is going to rise slightly when it cooks. This isn't. So I don't want the figolli to be like no filling and just loads of pastry. So the filling is slightly thicker. A bit of flour on the cutter. Make sure the cutter is in the same direction as your pastry. Okay, and all we're going to do is get the cutter, put it on and cut. Take off any excess. And we're just going to pick this up and we're going to put that on top of our pastry, like so. Okay? We're going to wet the pistachio and almond filling slightly. Don't overdo it. Now, here is another trick. Okay? So, before you put on the lid, the top piece of pastry, you can do 2 things. It's so fashionable to use this pistachio paste right now, isn't it? So if you want to make this really indulgent, get some of that delicious pistachio paste and you can just put it on in the middle before you cover. Leave a 1 centimeter gap around the edge, don't go to the very edge, and then put your pastry on top. Or if you want to, you can just take more pistachios like I'm doing now, and you can just squash those in. So when you cut, you're not only getting pistachio filling, but you're getting bits of pistachio too, okay? Now all we need to do is take the top piece and we're going to put it on. And here we have created the perfect figolla. Now what I normally do is I lightly press this together. Okay? And there you can see exactly how the figolla should be. I can see you're looking at that. There you go. That's perfect. All right? That is your figolla. 3 layers. 2 layers of buttery, orange zest and lemon zest pastry, a layer of that delicious almond and pistachio filling. Very, very important, we add in the lemon zest with the filling, and I added in vanilla extract and just a little bit of almond extract. We've got a few more minutes. So my Artisan figoli, which are the square ones, how do we make them? Exactly the same, but I just want to show you quickly what we need to do. We need to open up the pastry, roll it out rectangular, okay? So I'm going to open it up. I start by the width, and then I'll start rolling the length. I normally make them about 15 centimeters square, okay? Here we go. So you need a ruler. I'm going to get a ruler and I'm going to start by removing one side. Make sure it's a clean ruler. It's not something your son just did his homework with last night or this morning. So we're going to measure out 15 centimeters and I'm going to cut down. I like to do them 15 centimeters. It's a size which I quite like. Okay, I'm going to cut this straight down here, and we're going to cut out two squares which are 15 centimeters each. 15, 30. 15, 30. Perfect. So get our knife. These are going to take a little bit more time. They need to be a little bit more precise. So let's take this, put it on our baking tray. Now, the figolli I like to bake, I'm doing smaller figolli now because there are larger sizes. I like to bake these at about a temperature of 180 degrees Celsius. I don't like cooking them any higher than that. They take anything from 35 minutes to 45 minutes. Check them at the bottom as well. Once you've taken them out of the oven, let them cool for a few minutes, make sure that they're cooked underneath. If they're not, just flip them over and put them back in the oven. So all we're going to do is, got a couple of more minutes, wet again like we did before. We're going to put the pastry on this side, and we're just going to take some more of this delicious filling. And once again, we're going to roll out a square which is 15 centimeters by 15 centimeters. It's important that this filling is like a soft marzipan. It's slightly sticky. If you notice, if I don't put a bit of flour on or a bit of icing sugar, it's going to stick, and that's exactly what we want. I'm going to use a rolling pin, and we're done. So 15 by 15. This is going to go on top. Another thing I wanted to tell you, if you cut and it's not big enough, don't worry, because all you need to do is this. You put it on, you take some of this extra filling and you just put it on like putty. So don't worry, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just squash it on. Very, very simple. There you go. We're going to wet the top, and this is ready for the oven. So, like I said, our pistachio and almond figolli. Before you put the top on, you can add in some more whole pistachios like I've done, or otherwise you can add in pistachio paste, or you can just leave them as gorgeous as they are, and they're exactly as I've made this one here. So these are going to go straight into the oven, 180 degrees, for about 35 to 45 minutes. Let's cook them. More flour on the table because we're going to do something extra now. So, have you heard of figolini? Figolini are small figolli bites. I'm going to show you some photos of mine. A couple of years back, a Maltese bakery decided to create figolini, and the last couple of years they've really taken off. They're small bites of figolli sold in little bags. So instead of buying a full figolla which you cut up, you can buy these little figolli bites covered in chocolate or fondant icing with little sprinkles on. This is how you make them. So we've got the same filling, the same pastry, bit of flour on the table. We're almost going to be making like a sausage roll, but a sausage roll stuffed with our almond and pistachio filling. I've never seen figolini with pistachio and almond. So who knows, maybe we'll start a new trend this year. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna roll out the pastry. Remember, keep the pastry moving. We're gonna just lightly wet the pastry. Just a bit of water, nothing special. You don't need any egg white, egg yolk, nothing like that, just a little bit of water. Remember, the pistachio filling is already quite sticky. And we're gonna take the filling. Now, once again, you don't want there to be loads of pastry and no filling. So, I do a ratio of 1 to 2. You've got twice as much pastry as you have filling, okay? Like you would in a figolli, you'd have the pastry on the top and the bottom, and you'd have the filling in the middle. So what we're gonna do is, we're just gonna lightly wet the filling. And we're just gonna roll this up like a Swiss roll. That's it. That's all we need to do. Now, we're gonna roll this out thinner. Give it a cut. And we're gonna roll it out even thinner. If you've got a little bit of extra pastry like this, just damp it up and start rolling. And we're gonna roll and roll and roll. Now, these are really easy to create, okay? We've got to this stage. Now, you can make these as big or as small as you want. Ideally, you make them small. And ideally, before I bake these, I like to put them in the fridge for a couple of hours. We're gonna cut little pieces. Now, these are little balls. Figolini are little balls. So, what we're gonna do is, they're like fig rolls. We need to close the ends because we don't want to see the ends. So I'm going to push the pistachio filling in and I'm going to pinch. Let's do the same on the other side. We push it in and we pinch. And that way, the filling is in the inside. It's that simple. And you just roll it into a perfect little ball. Could it be easier than that? No. So let's do it again. I'm gonna do it to all of these. These take a little bit of time, obviously. Not like a figolli where you've cut this larger shape. These take a little bit more time. And like I said, these also needs to go in the fridge. I prefer putting them in the fridge because I don't want the pastry to collapse too much. I like to put them in the fridge for about 15, 20 minutes before I bake. I bake these at 200 degrees Celsius. These are small and they won't take long to cook. Whereas a figolli is large. So I like to cook it at 180 degrees Celsius. Like I said, anyone who wants the recipe, Manuel's pistachio and almond figolli, go to our website, Aceline.media, and you will be able to find the recipe there, and you'll also be able to see this program on demand whenever you want. So I'm going to finish these off. We're going to bake everything, and we're going to come back and we're going to start decorating our almond and pistachio figolli. So once our figolli are all baked, we need to let them cool down completely. I normally start decorating my figolli the following day. You don't want to decorate your figolli while they're still warm because they'll go moldy for you, okay? Remember, figolli is something which we make today and we might store for a couple of weeks. So you've got to make sure you keep them as fresh as possible. I've just started to melt some chocolate. Now, traditional Maltese figolli were covered in two things. In chocolate, which was a milk chocolate or a dark chocolate. Today we're using white chocolate too. Or otherwise in nusplu, which is fondant. So they used to take the cold or the chilled, cooled down figolli. They used to dip them in hot fondant, which was softened down with sugar syrup, or otherwise with chocolate. Today, in most places, that's still what they do. People at home are also using sugar paste. I like to use sugar paste too. I actually prefer a sugar paste or a sweeter figolli rather than with chocolate, but everybody has their preferences. Who wants it with white milk chocolate? Who wants it with dark milk chocolate? Who wants it with dark chocolate? Who wants it with marzipan or sugar paste? Everyone has their favorite. I'm going to show you how to cover them in chocolate. Now, it's very, very simple. Here we've got our figolli. That's our duck shape, okay? And all I'm going to do is I've got melted white chocolate. You don't even need to use a brush. Just literally put the chocolate on, use the back of a spoon and spread it out. Now, some people like to put the chocolate down on the sides as well. I prefer to have the chocolate just on the top. So all we're doing is we're pushing the chocolate around. Doesn't have to be more difficult than this. Okay, and then to get them perfectly flat, just lightly tap the figolla. And if you have any drips, just run your finger along and you'll be cleaning that edge. Okay, it's that simple. Now, obviously, you need to leave that to harden up before you decorate. So I've showed you how to do one with chocolate. Now I'm going to show you one with sugar paste. As I said, I'm going to be decorating with sugar paste today as well. What you need to do is you've taken your figolla. This is one of the square tiles. Now this went from 15 centimeters to 16 centimeters. So in the oven, it grew by about 1 centimeter all around. It's important that I measured because I know what size to cut my sugar paste. Now you need to brush this with warm apricot jam or a little bit of royal icing, okay? All I'm going to do is a bit of icing sugar on my tabletop. I've got some sugar paste. I'm using white. My tile is going to be, my square one is going to be a Maltese tile. So I've got sugar printed with a Maltese tile on top. And I don't want the color to bleed through, so I'm just using a white. Just rolling out some sugar paste. Doesn't have to be too thick. So like I said, this is 16 centimeters wide. Once again, I'm going to measure, get a knife. So 16 centimeters. Okay. It's 16 centimeters square. Turn my sugar paste around. Let's cut one side. Now you can either use colored sugar paste. I'm going to be decorating later on with some other colors. You can buy the sugar paste already colored, or you can color it yourself. So I'm just going to get this. Let's move this off the board. Put this onto our figolla. Just ease it around with your fingers, at the same time pressing it down. And there you have it, covered in sugar paste. So I tell you what we're going to do. I need to show you how to start decorating, and I've got some lovely techniques. I want to show you exactly how to make some interesting stuff. We've got some tiles prepared. I'm going to start decorating. So here I've got some more white chocolate. I'm going to decorate the figolini. Now, figolini we can decorate in glacé icing or fondant, or otherwise chocolate like I'm doing now. I'm using more white chocolate. You can use dark chocolate, white chocolate, milk chocolate, whatever you want to. Just going to dip these in. And just because of the colors, and it's Easter, we're using some nice colored sprinkles. This is something you should get your kids to do with you. I love decorating figolli with kids, even figolini. It's fun, get them to decorate their own. And then we're just gonna put some sprinkles on top. And those are delicious. If you have the time to make these for your friends and your family, you know, you can bag them up, put them in ribbons, little ribbon ties, little bows, and you can give them to your friends at Easter. That's if you have the time. If not, you're just going to make them for yourself. I used to make figolli for everybody I knew, family, friends, and it got to a stage where I said, listen, I just can't anymore because life's so busy. If you have the time, you can decorate these figolli as beautifully as you want. You can spend as much time as you want, or otherwise just dip them in chocolate and put sprinkles on, okay? The world's your oyster. You can do whatever you want. So figolini are done. I'm actually gonna move these out of the way now because I want some space. I'm gonna show you how to do some different types of decorating, okay? Here are some figoli which I have ready and some which I'm gonna continue decorating. So, let's start with the Maltese style. So here is a Maltese style, okay? Now, all I've done is, I've decorated the top with sugar paste, as you saw me do earlier. This is printed on sugar paste, okay? So we can print anything we want today on sugar paste. All I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna get a brush, and I'm gonna brush some water lightly on top of the figolla, which I have covered in sugar paste. Obviously, this needs to adhere, so it needs to stick. So lightly with some water. And I'm just gonna get this and I'm gonna put it on top. And there we've made a figolla with a Maltese tile design. Very, very, very simple. So let's come to this over here. So here I've prepared a Maltese tile in the shape of a habbata, which is a door knocker. This is a traditional Maltese door knocker. This is all molded from sugar. Everything is edible. So you've got edible sugar paste. The gold color is an edible gold paint. Now here I've created a different one, okay? I've taken another traditional door knocker and I've molded this. This is part of it. Again, it's dried sugar paste, painted with edible silver color, and I'm gonna start sticking this one down as well. So here's the, I like to stick down with royal icing. It's like that. And then take this one off, a bit on the back, a bit here and there. That's gonna go there, and we do the same with this one. Like I said, I'm just using some royal icing. There you go. A traditional Maltese door knocker. Now to finish this off, I'm just gonna do some piping. So I've got some more of the whites. I'll pipe a little shell around the edge. This is just royal icing. Just creates a nice finish. A traditional Maltese figolla has a shell piped in royal icing. In fact, the royal icing was always used to decorate and finish off a figolla. So whether it was covered in fondant or chocolate, it's always piped with royal icing. I'm just going to finish piping this and I'm going to turn everything around for you to see. And I like to choose colors on these Artisan figoli, which are indigenous to what we see in Malta. So basically, Maltese doors are normally blue or red or black or green. And here you've got two Maltese door knockers. So two figoli in the shape of Maltese door knockers, okay? So I'm going to leave those over there. Let's come to the ducks. And I'm going to show you one more technique, which is this. So this is lace. This is brush embroidery. Now in Malta, we have a lot of lace works. It's something very, very beautiful. And what I've created here is lace work and brush embroidery on a figolla. I'm going to show you how to do this very soon. But before then, let's finish off the duck. So here we have the duck, which we created earlier. We've covered it in chocolate. It's not completely dry yet because it's hot in the studio. So I'm going to take some more of this royal icing and I'm just going to pipe a border. Ideally, the chocolate has set before we start to decorate. Okay, now I like to use different shades of royal icing to then continue decorating. Turn this around. Trying to work as fast as I can because you wouldn't believe me, but time flies when you're in the studio. So that's a duck. We got some yellow. Look what I've done to this one here. We've got all these different molds today available for sugar paste, and I've created waves at the bottom, waves from the sea. So we've got some yellow, and I'm just going to Do some decoration here. Like I said, this is still damp. Chocolate is still not dry. And then we use a silver dredger or something, something edible as an eye. That's basically the idea. This is how we decorate our figoli. I'm just going to do something else here on the wing. So we end up doing the final decoration using royal icing. And once again, let your imagination run wild and just start decorating. There's no way, there's no good, there's no bad. It's just a matter of piping. There we go. Those are the ducks. He still needs an eye. So, how much time do we have left? Do we have some time left? Oh, we've got loads of time. Okay, so I'd like to show you the process of brush embroidery and lace. So here is the figolla, which I've covered in a lace and brush embroidery design. Brush embroidery is a technique which I was trained to do when I was at catering school when I was 16 years old. I'm now 52. So you do the math. I'm not going to try doing it. But it's a technique which has been fashionable for so many years. It's a classic technique, and it's again come in fashion on wedding cakes and birthday cakes. You know, the old always comes back, the classic always comes back, and it's one of those cases. Now, all we're going to do is, I've got some sugar paste here on a board, and I want to explain to you how we work. So I need a pointed brush with some water, and I need a piping bag with some royal icing. Now what I'm going to do is, with brush embroidery, we pipe an outline, and then we get our brush and we pull in, and it starts creating almost like an embroidered effect. So I'm going to start by piping some petals. I'm going to do some different directions. Like I said, this is brush embroidery. This isn't something you'd find traditionally on a Maltese figolla. This is something which I've created just to be different. So we get our brush and our tip, put in a little bit of water, and going in, we just pull in. And we're pulling in that royal icing to create the veins on a petal. Let me pick that up to show you. Which camera? Stevie. See? That's brush embroidery, because it's embroidery and we're using our brush to create the technique. Let me turn this around. I did this quite thick for you because I wanted it to show on camera. I tend to do it a lot thinner. Now it's important, ideally you use a darker color underneath, as I have. So I've used almost like a Wedgwood blue here. It gives you the best effect because there's more of a contrast. But today on wedding cakes, we're using ivory on white or cream on white. It works very nicely on blush. So if you've got a blush cake or a blush figolla and you do off-white or white brush embroidery. So that's the idea, brush embroidery. Like I said, I've done it very thick so you can see. I'm just going to pipe a leaf or two. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to do some more brush strokes. Obviously, the finer you go, the more effective. As I said, this is brush embroidery. Takes a bit of time, but it does give beautiful effects. I'm rushing. I wouldn't be working this quickly at home. We're pulling in the royal icing to create that lovely veining effect on the leaf. There you go. And then you just use your imagination and you start piping scrolls and lattices. It's all about piping, okay? Piping is very, very important. And it's a lot of pressure piping as well. So that's basically brush embroidery, okay? Now, I've shown you quite a few different techniques here. Let's go through them again. So these are my artisan style of figolli. So let's put this one aside. So we're gonna start off here with our Maltese tiles. And you can actually do run-out royal icing to create this effect. I've had the Maltese tiles printed on sugar paste, okay? That's what I've done today. We did a 15 by 15 centimeter square figolli, which ended up about 16 by 16. Here we've got the Maltese habat, or the Maltese door knockers. I've done two traditional Maltese door knockers here. We've got a gold fish door knocker with the Maltese cross, and I also have a silver traditional Maltese design there. So those are my artisan style. We also have here the brush embroidery lace. Lace, again, is very artisan to Malta. I've shown you the technique of brush embroidery. So here we've got some fine piped lace and brush embroidery. I've also got a few sugar pearls on there as well, just to create that more traditional lace effect. Here we've got something a bit more classical, a bit more traditional. We've got the Maltese traditional duck covered in chocolate with some piping, something very, very traditional, and basically the way that traditional figolli were made. Over here I've got the figolini, something very, very small, very sweet, something very, very modern that's been in Malta for the last couple of years. Miniature figolli in the shape of little bites, put them in a bag and give them to your friends and family. So here we are, our Maltese figolli, today using my recipe, which is a bit different from the traditional. Today we did a pistachio and almond figolla. Here I've showed you some different techniques on decorating. We also made our figolini, a recipe which has been in Malta for the last couple of years. So figolini are the same recipe, same filling, same pastry, just made smaller, rolled into balls and then covered in chocolate or icing. Here we've got our almond and pistachio figolli in various designs. We've got our Maltese door knockers, we've got our traditional Maltese tiles. I did some brush embroidery and some lace work, and then we've got the more traditional type of figolli. Hope you've enjoyed the program. Don't forget you can find the recipes on Aceline.media. Look for Manuel's pistachio and almond figolli. You'll also see this program there on demand. Also, you can find the version in Maltese. Thank you very much. This program was brought to you by Benna, Lamb Brand and KitchenAid by Forest Stalls.